Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to do is that I want to talk about some very high quality watches for some really good prices. Now, at the idea that a watch doesn't hold its value is probably a myth. The notion of a value has to do with the intrinsic worth of a watch. What you pay for it is what you pay for it. So a lot of these watches have very high value, but they have low resale values. And for a collector, you want to pick them up on the resale for the most part. Okay, let's take a look at these. Some of these I've talked about before, so I'm not going to dwell on them too long, but just to give you an idea of what's available. Also, I pictured the luxury item that the company is known for more than watches initially, so you can get some idea of the balance that we're looking at. Now, the first one I want to look at is Bulgari. Bulgari is owned by LVMH, and they've been starting to win awards with their watches. Some really excellent ones. They make their own movements. They have the LVMH has movement facilities that they use as well. So I mean, they're getting some good horology in these. Now, the pictured there is what you'll find a $1 million necklace and things like that at Bulgari. And the watches, men's watches especially. By the way, too, a lot of these companies have a much broader line of women's watches, which are more bejeweled than what guys have or what they want for the most part. The Octo Finissimo is a great example. The MSRP on that $16,100, and again, a lot of these come down in price. The value stays the same. A couple other ones from Bulgari that I find really good buys. One of the best buys is the Bulgari Octo Roma, and it has the BVL 191, and the MSRP on that's about $7,300. I found a pre-owned one for $2,895, and again, that's before negotiations begin. Another one, also with the same movement, but a very different looking one, is the Bulgari Octo Retrograde, which has a jumping hour and a retrograde minute. Very nice watch. MSRP is $18,600. The best offer I found was $6,142. And so you can see there's a huge difference between the MSRP and the street price that you can find for them. Okay, the next one is Fabergé, and Fabergé was known for making these eggs, called the Fabergé eggs, for the Tsar of Russia. He loved them for some reason, and so Fabergé, they still make them. They're extremely expensive. This one here is about $60,500 for the Guilloche enamel strawberry surprise egg. The price tag is the surprise. Now, this thing about the watches is they're right now, Fabergé has been using Vauchour movements. They've used a lot of different kinds of movements in the past. The one I have, this is a Fabergé Alexis. The movement in it is a Frederic Piguet. And so anyway, this is something that's changed. Now, the current main Fabergé is the Altruist. They don't make the Agathon and they don't make the Alexis anymore. For some reason, they all start with an A for the sort of the main men's watch. Now, if you're looking to get one, it's can be a challenge. Uh, I went to Every Watch and I found this one, Fabergé, and it was spelled Agaton rather than Agathon. Some guy in Italy has it. And I looked at it, it was a gorgeous looking watch, and I found another one with that same layout by Fabergé. And so one of the things I did, now I'm not saying this one is a fake. I don't think it is because Fabergé and a lot of the other luxury brands did use ETAs. But the thing is you got to do a little detective work. Now, and of course, like so many watch companies, they don't tell you what the movement is. But right here on this particular one, and I really like it to tell you the truth, I looked at the picture that was on the site. And so I enlarged it, and their 2892A2 is an ETA movement, and you can just a little see it back there. You can see the ETA logo. Now on this watch, I opened up the back because this has got a solid back to it. I wish it didn't, but it does. And it's got this great big, the movement, or the rotor is this big imperial eagle. And so I looked at it, and it has Cal F1 857, which is a Fabergé number for a Frederic Piguet movement. And so a lot of these watches I would suggest look at very closely. The Agathon is a newer one than the Alexei, and if you look at the two down in the lower left corner, you can both of those watches are from an Agathon. One has the Imperial Eagle for the rotor, and the other one just has a solid rotor. The one with the solid rotor is the one with the 2892A2 movement in it. Those things help, and it's not just them, it's any watch that you need to look out for those things for. Now, the Fabergé has some other watches that are sort of like they're like top of the line watches. They're excellent watches. Unfortunately, they tend to be very expensive. The Fabergé, sort of their standard altruist, is 17,500. Now the strange thing that I found, I couldn't find any on the pre-owned market. I looked and looked and looked. You might be able to find one, and for a good price. This one was, I think, originally around the same price. It's white gold with hand guillot shape. Wonderful watch. I love it. But what I got it for, brand new, was pretty low. Okay, it's around $4,000 for, an $18,000 watch in white gold with a Frederic Piguet movement. I'm a happy camper with that. And this is the kind of deal that it's not so much I say, oh, go out and get one of these. Rather, know about them. And if you see something that's a good buy, you'll know it's a good buy. Now, one of my favorite ones is the Fabergé Visionaire DTZ watch, dual time zone. This won an award for the best travel watch at the Grand Prix one year. I forgot what year it was. The list price on this is $32,450, and I haven't seen a big drop in those. I wish I did. I'd love to have one. Another one that was this top watch is a Fabergé Visionaire chronograph watch, $45,000, way over what I can afford, but it has an Agenor chronograph movement. You can't get a better movement for a chronograph than that. And that's my opinion. I know most others too, I think. Okay, next of all is Hermes. Now, Hermes is known for its handbags. Here's one of their famous Kelly bags. It was called a Kelly bag because Grace Kelly, the actress and the Princess of Monaco, had one. And it's $27,500. They're expensive. Now, they have a really good line of watches. One of the reasons that Hermes's line, I think, for guys' watches is so broad is they own 25% of Vaucher, who makes the movements, and those are the movements they use. Some of their older ones, they had ETAs and whatever they could get their hands on, I guess, but then they started moving everything over to using Vaucher movements, and they also worked with Agenor for some specialized movements inside of those, and won some awards doing so. One of them was the men's watch of the year, which is a big deal in the Grand Prix. This is the Crew chronograph watch. This is 75. The thing about this watch is that there's some other older ones that you can find, and again, you want to look around to find some good prices. Now, here are a couple. This is one. Somebody sent me an email today, and really it was amazing. The Hercule de la Lune. Sorry about my French. This is an amazing watch with the dials moving around. This one won, I believe it won 2 Grand Prix awards for the men's version and the women's version of exactly the same watch. The MSRP on this particular one is 46,000. I mean, it's almost 47,000 bucks. But it's got a special case and it's gold, and that's a pretty expensive one. I found an offer for one for $13,120. Now, I know that's a lot of money, but it's not, compared to 47, it's not, it's about a third of it. Another one that was found, this is one of the guys who's one of our subscribers found, it was Hermès Sim de Hermès GMT. This one list is 14,700. He got it for 8,190, brand new, with box and papers. So you can find some stuff on the secondary market for some really, really fantastic watches by companies that you normally wouldn't associate with making great men's watches and with really outstanding horology. Now, Chanel is another one. The Monsieur de Chanel, 40,710 bucks. First of all, these are very hard to find. I found one, I have one, and was able to get it for about half of that. And it was pre-owned, but it was still under warranty, and I ran into a little problem with it. I couldn't ask for better service. I really couldn't. They fixed it in ways. I think they updated it. Now, one of the things, the movement, was partially done by Romain Gauthier, and you can take a look at when you look at the movement on it, you can see why. Well, there's more to that, and this is a brand to keep your eye on. Let me explain why. Okay, take a look at what they own now, or they own a part of. There's a company that they got back in 1993, I think, called Chatelaine. And they have a lot of the machinery for doing all kinds of work on watches. But look at the ones that they own a part of, or the whole ball of wax. They own part of Canisi with Tudor, and the Canisi manufacturer makes the movements for both Tudor and the version of a Tudor movement for Chanel. And the Chanel one has a lot of that characteristics that you can see in Romain Gauthier. Romain Gauthier, they own a part of that. They own Bell and Ross. Bell and Ross, if you look far enough in Bell and Ross, I just love Bell and Ross watches because they have a lot of pilot things on it that look like things they took from an instrument panel that I like because I used to fly. MB&F, just this last year they bought but in 25% of MB&F. They bought is 25% of FP Journe. So now they're not going to just let that stuff sit there. Believe me, they're doing things to make, I think, some really great watches. Now, the Monsieur that I have is really an incredible watch, and I'm looking very forward to it. Bell and Ross, if you take a look at Bell and Ross, some of the, at the higher end of it, they've got some interesting watches that are not typical Bell and Ross. I'm talking watches over $100,000 watches. Most Bell and Ross watches are around, I think, around 4,000 and 5,000 maybe. So there's something going on. Keep an eye on Chanel, and if you can find the J12, if we had talked about that recently in one, and the J12. If you get a J12, you want to get the, I think it's called the 12.1 inch movement, the Chanel 12.1, which is by Kinesi, which is based on a Tudor movement. Keep an eye on Chanel. Now, the next one is Van Cleef & Arpels. The Van Cleef & Arpels is owned by the Richemont. It's one of the Richemont group. And the thing about it is certain things have changed. Now, this particular watch, see, I think I have it. I have this one. I have is the it's in French and it means time here and time elsewhere. Heure d'ici et heure d'ailleurs. Okay. Great watch, but the big thing about this watch is the movement. The entire movement was done by Agenor, and it's an incredible movement. And the watch itself is a dual jumping hours with a retrograde minutes on it. Okay, now here's what happened. I think that the Richemont group decided that, okay, from now on, any new movements or any specialized movements are going to be done by Valfleury, which is the movement maker that they own, which is sort of too bad. But I got a feeling if they run into a real problem with this, they're going to go back to Agenor like they have. Now, the watches that Van Cleef & Arpels have, they're sort of on two ends. If you go back and you look around, you can find the Jaeger-LeCoultre caliber 939 in this really great watch. It's called the Van Cleef & Arpels Monsieur Dual Time Generation Calendar. You can also find a Jaeger-LeCoultre that looks almost identical. The movement is the same movement, but the Van Cleef & Arpels is, I don't know, it's just a little different, but I'm not sure how much. But if for getting like a really top brand, I think this one is one that is very likable. On the back, they have a perpetual calendar too, which is really interesting. Now, they're sort of plain vanilla men's watch is called the Pierre Arpels. Now, they have it in different sizes, and I think the two sizes that at least I could wear, one is called the Pierre Arpels 38 millimeter. That's the one that's pictured there. And they have them also in 42 millimeters. And if you poke around, you can find some very good buys. Pre-owned, they run between about 4,000 and 7,000. So take a look at it. And they're hard to sell, because people, the watch collectors don't understand what they're dealing with, and that's too bad. White gold or yellow gold, there may be some in steel, I just don't know. The white gold one, this particular one, the MSRP is $16,800, but like I said, if you look around, you can find them between 4 and 7. You can find some other ones even less than that, but they tend to be the smaller ones. They're down almost near 32 millimeters, something like that. Okay, the final one now is Chaumet. Now, I've talked about Chaumet so many times because I like him, and I've been told don't talk about Chaumet anymore. Here's a watch I found. A friend of mine. This was this afternoon. I was earlier this morning. Actually, I was having coffee with a friend, and he had this Chaumet GMT. It's got an ETA 2892A2 movement in it. So I mean, that's one thing about Chaumet. Most of them are going to be ETA movements, but then they have some surprise movements too. So, like the one I have has an Agenor module in it with two Agenais gears. Whatever they are incredibly well made. I don't think you could find a better bracelet, a better case, a better dial. They're fantastic. They really are. And the guys I know who got one, yeah, they are. Well, they're a jeweler and they're used to making fine jewelry. And so their cases are really something. Wish they'd use, if they pop a Vachur or something, it'd be even better. Anyway, well, they quit making men's watches now, so that's something you should know. But if you got one with an ETA movement, easiest movement in the world to get serviced. Anyway, I thought I'd go over these to just sort of give you an awareness of where you can find some really great watches at really great prices. And also to keep your eye out for some of the things that are coming with these companies, because they are changing and they're really getting into high horology. Let me know what you think. If you have any of these or have some, say, wait a minute, what about Gucci or one of these other ones? They probably do too. Let me know. It's an opportunity to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Side, the Art and Science